What's up, everyone? Today we are going to be looking at the Graveborn tier list I'm going to put together. Make sure if you enjoy these videos that you like and subscribe, but we're going to jump right into it and we're going to start with Damon. So Damon is a unit that in a normal AFK arena has really is early mid game just super good, viable and basically most things, but especially with campaign and towers, he just does so well with pushing and companions. It's really not much different. So Damon's S tier. They are just so good at pushing, so good at just tanking damage, and just really just someone that you should be focusing on when you get any chance of getting copies of them and upgrading them to a higher level. So next I'm going to start with Desira. Kind of like one of the few healers in Graveborn, which is interesting. But I'm going to have to put her in C tier just because compared to Silas, she just doesn't do anything that really sets her above Silas. Silas is like the best healer for sure in Graveborns. He just does a lot of healing, just a lot more than what Desira does. And so she's going to go down to C tier, which means that we'll just jump over to Silas. I want to put him in A tier. I think Silas deserves to be A tier just for the fact that he's one of the very few Graveborns that are actually decent and can be used with other characters from other factions. With that being said, there are better support characters in the game outside of Silas, so I wouldn't say he's an S tier champion, but for pushing the Graveborn Tower and for your second or even your first comp and campaign, once you get to those two comp stages, he can be really viable and useful. So Gretzel is going to be put in S tier as well. He is just a very tanky, can be really annoying to go against once he starts getting off all of his summons, but he is just really tanky, does damage, and he takes a little bit of investment to kind of get going. He needs to be a little bit higher besides like the base level, but with that being said, he's still very good. Should be prioritized when you can. Because even though Damon is a tank character, he is more of a sit in the back, do damage, and then tank with his puppet or summon or whatever that thing is. Whereas Gretzel is like full on tank, will tank and keep summoning, which is super helpful. Next we have Hodkin. Hodkin is an interesting unit. He's kind of like a buffer tank. And he also does some decent AoE damage, which is nice to have in there with the tank. And so I think Hodkins is a solid B. He's a unit where I wouldn't necessarily prioritize him, but if you do get a lot of copies of him just by happenstance and you have some free units to upgrade him with, then go ahead and do it. But I don't think he's someone that you should prioritize over these top three. Isabella is one that I like the design of, just a little sad girl. But unfortunately, she is not very good. I made the mistake of thinking, oh, well, it's a new game. Maybe she is viable, but she's kind of just hot garbage. So sorry, Isabella, your DPS is just not good compared to other units in Graveborn and just in general. So you're going to have to go in D tier. So Nara is an interesting unit because you don't really need to do anything with her. You just need one copy because of her pull ability. And so because of that, let's put her in low A because what she does is really good. That is pulling the carries or the pesky healers in the back so you can kill them. And with some stages, it's really the best way to clear them. And so she's a great unit to use as a, one use, pull someone, get past the stage, remove her until you need her again in the future. So it's a unit that I would encourage you to get one copy of, but it is not something that I would encourage you building. So I'm actually, because of that, I'm gonna put her in B tier, high B, because she is extremely useful, but you will just naturally get one. You're not gonna need to try to find one, but I don't want anyone to think that you should be building her because you really shouldn't. If you do build her, you happen to build her, it's not gonna be the end of the world, but there are others that are better. Okay, next we have Shamira, who is basically the best Graveborn damage dealer in the game. I'm gonna put her in the second slot of S tier just because I think Damon has a lot of damage and tank, which Shamira isn't as tanky. She does have life leech, which is really nice with keeping her alive. And the longer the battle goes on, Shamira kind of just amps up, which is really nice if you do have a nice front line. Shamira is, you probably see her all over in arena battles. She's great in arena, great in campaign, great in tower. She's just a unit that is probably number 2 or 3 most prioritized in the entire game. So I would definitely encourage you to build her. I wish I would have built her instead of Isabella. Isabella's not super built up in mine, but more than Shamira at this point. So I wish I would have had more copies of her and ignored Isabella as a trap, but I, got greedy and just decided to do it anyway. Shamira is definitely a unit you want to build out. And so next we have Theowin, who is a really cool concept of a unit. Her possessing other units, not letting them heal, kind of being a little tricky to get a hold of or to kill is really cool. But at the end of the day, she's not really viable. She just kind of does a lot of nothing at the end of the day. So I would say she's in C tier, probably top C, but at this point, it just doesn't matter. You shouldn't be doing anything with C and D champions. She's a fun unit to build and kind of play with, but besides that, not really viable. Next we have Thoren, who is just, the classic tank in AFK Arena. I feel like that's the first tank that comes to mind when I think of tanks. His resurrection ability is nice. His damage to the farthest unit is really nice. He is going in the A tier, probably bottom A, just because of right now, there's not a ton of usefulness for him, but he will continue to be useful as the game progresses. I'm sure I would say he's someone who, if you get a lot of copies of, doesn't hurt to build him up. You shouldn't prioritize him over the S tier champs, but if you do have a lot of copies, he can be really helpful. He can do some decent damage. He can really stall for your backline units. The only thing to keep in mind is because his resurrection means units won't be attacking him anymore, it can be a quick way for other units to get to your backline. And so he's not a traditional tank as in the sense of waiting, stalling so your backline can put out the damage, but he is kind of a make the battle go on forever type of unit, and hopefully he can kill the final unit or be used in a different comp specifically for Thoren. So I'd say that's where he would go. And then last is Tresor. I'm going to put him probably in the highest C if this wants to work. Okay, there we go. So highest C for him just because he is tanky, kind of goes after your back line, kind of does a little bit of AoE, kind of does a little bit of everything, but doesn't do anything great. He is a fun unit. The horse units I think are really cool looking, but besides that, not really someone you should be building out or prioritizing. I think he is a unit that could use some love, but I don't know if there's really going to be any buffs to any of these units, so I think this tier list will probably stand the way it is for a while. But that is my tier list for Graveborn. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like I said before, make sure you like and subscribe, and good luck on your AFK Companions journey. Thanks for watching.